All right, some breaking news on the way. The PPI about to be released. Empire State as well. Rick Santelli is at the CME Group in Chicago, along with Jim Paulson, Steve Leisman. Rick.
Here we go. Hold on to these inflation numbers. Up 1.8 month over month. Strip out everything Americans need most. It's up 0.5. Year over year, from minus 1.9 last look to up 2.4. Strip out food and energy. Last look, year over year, up 0.7. This is up 1.2. Manufacturing, supposed to come out in the 20s, is 2.55. So no matter what you want to call it, of course, we're not going to call it inflation. In some circles, we'll just call it higher prices. It is definitely pushing rates up. As a matter of fact, we have a 3.60 in a 10-year. This is breakout territory. You know, if you want to issue paper forever, wake up if you're running the presses. It may cost a bit more in pre-opening equities. Well, we went from down 23 in futures to down 38, but it's still early in the game. I guess all these numbers are a surprise. It's that simple. One good thing, at least for the moment, the dollar is doing better. We're going to continue to monitor that. It's going to be interesting to see how the currency, or at least the paper version of it, does when inflation is ramped up from a statistical sense. Back to you.
All right, Rick, stick around there. We want to get to Steve, to Jim, Congressman Paul here, of course. Steve, I'll go to you first. Hotter than inflation numbers in Empire, a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, Carl, what I'm looking at here on the producer price index is, pretty decent gains on a lot of the energy products, especially gasoline up 14.2, heating oil up 18.3. Looks like there was a tick up in tobacco prices that probably affected the core numbers here. Passenger cars, though, down 2%. Month on month, by the way, after a 0.5% decline in the prior month. Looking down the pipeline here, what you see is some modest pressure down the road that might augur for some inflation in coming months. 1.4% on the intermediate goods, and then you go to crude goods, and that's 5.7%, although that seems to be substantially propelled by energy prices again. Again, I want to point you to the next month where we've had this $10 a barrel fall in energy prices. We'll see whether or not the pressures remain in the system.
Jim, thoughts on the numbers?
I agree with Steve. I think the biggest thing here is the energy component certainly came through, and we know what that's going to be now next month. I'm a little concerned about that core number up 0.5. Yeah. Maybe, as Steve says, tobacco, that'd be good if it's just a one-off, but otherwise that's a little bit concerning.
Do you get discouraged when you see a manufacturing number come in cold, given the hopes that are pinned to a rebound in manufacturing?
Well, you'd certainly like to see them come in hot, but, they just don't work that way month in and month out. The vast majority of the data is saying we're recovering, and I think this number doesn't discourage that.
Yeah, Rick, it does come after a nice little trend of some positive data, whether it's trade deficits or retail sales or consumer sentiment. Throw enough cold water on that for you?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? The cold water's been here. We're just debating whether the water's really cold or just a little cold. I continue to look at energy prices, and it's the same old green shoots. We're at $69, $70 right now. I can remember a time where $70 was thought to be a historical type figure. Now, when the whole world has no demand, we have a lot of excess reserves, maybe not distillate so much. We look at this as a cheap price. Where's it going to be when you actually get some demand? I don't find green shoots in this number. And you know what? If this number had all the same dynamics the other way, my economist friends would, of course, look at the number and give it a lot more credit. But since it's going in a direction that is not favorable to the times, we want to sweep it under the rug, call it a mogul, and sell tickets for a new form of interior decorating.
Steve, is that true? Do the Bulls want to cry when the numbers don't go their way, but when they do, they celebrate?
Yeah, we're all lying here, Carl. We're all making stuff up here. We're sweeping stuff under the rug. I don't know. If Rick wants to be worried about inflation, I welcome him to worry about it. What I'm looking at, basically,
in 3 years, remember those words, pal.
Well, 3 years, it may well be, Rick. A broken clock is right twice a day, Rick.
If you plant seeds today, don't be shocked something grows.
Rick, is that your forecast that inflation will not show up 3 years from now?
Leave that to your transparent
What did you just say then? I mean, come on, stand behind your words, for God's sake.
I will stand behind mind my words. Go shopping, buddy. Or
I did go shopping.
Emergency claims benefits, or understand the retail sales number.
I did go shopping.
Friday
No, Rick.
had a complete
What
new
you need to
sampling.
do, Rick, what you need to do is understand emergency claims benefits.
Oh, yeah,
which
I'll give you a book on it.
Claims basis, on a non-season adjusted basis, Rick. Unlike what you said, they are
Walk
down
it back, Steve.
week to
Walk
week.
it back, buddy.
Rick, are you going to let me talk, or you just keep interrupting me?
No,
What's
you
your
don't
pleasure
say anything
here?
I find interesting to hear.
Okay, very good, Rick. Very good. Well, you let people keep following you down that path of higher interest rates, Rick. Rick, down the path of higher interest rates. People have just lost tons of money following
10
your...
months ago, I had a rant, okay? Nobody talks about it. Replay it. Let's see who history says is more correct.
Well, I don't know, Rick. Rick, you know what, Rick? The better the numbers get, Rick, the angrier you get.
You know
Retail
what?
came in better than expected.
Somebody needs to get angry. Somebody needs to get angry, Steve.
How about, Rick, take a look at the data and let your emotions take a back seat for a second?
You have kids. I have kids.
I went to the store this week.
They don't let you drive a car by reading a book. You have to go out with your parents for 50
and I went
hours.
out, Rick,
you
50%
off.
off.
Tell me how to run the economy.
So I'm not telling you how to run the economy. I'm telling you what the data say, Rick.
I love when we have...
Telling you what the data say, Rick, and obviously that's of no concern to you because of how you feel.
You ought to have a conversation with
keep ranting, Rick. Keep ranting.
Know that in
the banks paid the tart back,
when the
Rick.
cameras
what about
are
that?
off, Rick and Steve actually like each other even less, so you don't need to worry about any of this.
I don't care about TARP. I care about
they paid it back.
Freddie
you
and
messed
Fannie.
up,
So
Rick. You were wrong, Rick.
So what? You owe me $50 and you give me 50 cents.
They paid it back, Rick.
Thank you, guys. Yeah. Rick, Steve, have a terrific day, you two. Congressman Paul and Jim are going to stick around for the rest of the show.